Books, 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 and some more books. Welcome back to another book review by me, Josh. And before I continue, just a bit of housekeeping. If you're a strictly YouTube viewer, or you haven't been following me on my Instagram and TikTok, you would know that I have started a podcast where I've been uploading all these book reviews for those that just want to listen to it on their way to work, those that not necessarily are interested in the visuals. They just want to hear book, and book. So every single episode I've been posting on YouTube is now available on Spotify. Just search BiblioMe and you'll see it there. And while you're looking for that, you might as well follow me on Instagram and TikTok, where I post shorter clips for the podcast/YouTube videos, but also other book style content, such as books I'm currently reading, authors that I'm really excited to see releasing their new work, titles that are coming this year, just other book style content if you're really a deeply rooted lover of the literature. But I've been dying to get into this book and dying to tell you my thoughts about Phantasma. So it's been a while since I've actually read Booktok, like just anything Booktok related, which is basically any book that's found in that section when you walk into a bookstore and you see, oh, here's all the stuff that is popping on Booktok. There's a specific section for it, and this is where I found this book, Phantasma by Kaylie Smith. Now, two things attracted it to me. One, the fact that I haven't read Booktok in a while. I think the last book I read was probably a King of Sins book. I'm not sure which one, but probably one of those by Anna Wang, which is just strictly romance. No supernatural, no nothing. No, not even dark romance, I would even say. And the second thing that drew me to this book is the fact that it was available in this edition, which is a sort of a special edition. So it's a hardcover edition of Phantasma with a gilded skull, the name and author. And of course, what is a special edition without some sprayed edges? Obviously not probably, the best. I would probably rank it like a 3 out of 5 just because it's kind of a bit boring, but it's tied in with the story. So, it can't really hurt. And just look at these pages inside. This is really what drew me in. But how did I hear about Phantasma? So at the bookstore that I was working at, there was a particular time where I took responsibility over the Booktok section. And I thought, hey, if some individual was looking for a sort of romance or Booktok book with a little bit of spice in it, as a bookseller, I should know these things. So one of those posts on Instagram popped up where it was like a cheat sheet / spice chapter kind of thing. One of those things popped up. I tapped on one, and suddenly my feed page was basically full of it. My search page full. So on one of those was a particular tidbit about Phantasma, about a room where blood was raining down and a bit of spice in there. So that was basically my entire recollection of Phantasma before actually picking up this book and before even seeing the special edition. But I couldn't help myself. I think this book kind of generates the conversation or the topic that we actually as book readers or Booktok viewers or people that are on social media for books need to discuss. And that is why or what makes a book Booktok? Is it just because it blows up? Or is there a specific trope, specific characters, spice level? Like what exactly makes a book Booktok? Now, I've read a lot of Booktok. Not recently, but I've read quite a few. But they always sort of bring me on this emotional roller coaster that other books don't seem to. And it's really a emotional roller coaster of love, tension, excitement, disappointment, annoyance, and then pivot all back again and again and again and again. And it's something I haven't actually experienced a lot with any other genre. Like I've recently been reading a lot of sci-fi. I haven't experienced it with that. It's almost like each genre has their own little emotional range that, or for me at least, that actually I can only experience these things with those genres. And maybe that works for everybody else, but yeah. But there's a level of annoyance that I only ever seem to get from Booktok books. And before I get into it and before I explain what exactly about this book, for audio viewers, I think you need to go watch this bit in the video. But before I get into exactly that, let me just give you a breakdown of the story. So we're following Ophelia Grimm. Thank you, Taylor Swift. We are following Ophelia, who is a student or a learner version of a necromancer. So essentially, you have Ophelia, and she has her mother and her sister. Now, Ophelia has a relationship with her mother because her mother's been constantly training her, educating her on magic. This world deals with the supernatural in the sense of phantoms, demons, ghosts, stuff like that. But also, obviously, she's a necromancer, so she can communicate with spirits, that sort of thing. But her mother has been dealing with that. And her mother is aware that once she passes, obviously, when that happens, Ophelia must take over and continue basically the Grimm legacy. Because of that, Ophelia's sister, Genevieve, is a lot more freer and is the contrast to Ophelia, put forward by Ophelia, no less, actually. In her words, the more exciting, the more beautiful, the more curvy, the more spontaneous, freer version of a Grimm that there is, as opposed to her who is now stuck in expectation, legacy, family duty, stuff like that. And basically, the premise of this book is Ophelia's mom dies suddenly, out of the blue, randomly, she just dies. And now Ophelia must take over the legacy of their house, the Grimm Mansion or the Grimm Manor, as well as the fact that she is now going to be the necromancer in New Orleans. But there's a little smidge of a problem in the fact that suddenly she didn't realize her mom had debt. In fact, this is something that her sister and her mom kept away from her. Her mom has some financial troubles with the bank. They need money to secure the Grimm Manor, otherwise they're going to lose it. And for Ophelia, that has been raised for so many years in the expectation that she must do this for the Grimm legacy, to maintain their family legacy and to pass these gifts on to the next generation, sort of. The fact that she has just become in charge of that legacy, the forefront of that legacy, and the fact that now she might lose the mansion immediately is basically too much for her. She gets in a little tidbit with her sister. They part ways in a very dramatic fashion that is typical of Booktok books, and she just goes missing. And eventually, Ophelia is able to figure out where Genevieve went missing. And essentially, there is this Hunger Games / devil haunted house kind of thing that pops up every now and again in New Orleans, but basically travels across the country and allows people to enter under their own accord, swear a deal and everything to get in. They have to complete the levels of hell. And basically, if they win the competition, they get a favor upon which they can wish upon anything, whether it's ridding yourself of debts, saving, family members, bringing back people from the dead. This wish is told to everybody that's heard of it. It can do anything. Except, of course, Ophelia knows that this is also ran by devils. So the Phantasma is this contest that is ran by devils. And she hates it. Her mom has always told her to be careful of devils, so she cannot understand for the life of her what exactly Genevieve is doing in this competition. So she joins it with the task to save Genevieve, save the house, continue the legacy. Of course, it doesn't go to plan, but that is the basic premise, and that's what you get from the first few chapters of the book. Now, this may look like a chunky book, but it's about 400 and something pages, which is a bit long for a Booktok book. But I would actually categorize this as more of a fantasy book. It is more supernatural. It is more steeped in this magic system. Ophelia has abilities that she never really trained for. So once she gets into the contest and she meets a particular phantom, she's able to learn, she can do a lot more with her magic. But, there's also ghosts. There's also devils. There's also phantoms. There's apparitions. There's or they can manifest. Obviously, the devils can manifest their fears, their tests, their tribulations, their greatest fears, etc., etc. So that sort of thing kind of reminds me more of fantasy in a weird way. And maybe that's just because I'm used to Booktok being strictly like spiciness, strictly like romance. It just didn't give for a good 100 pages there. It didn't really give me Booktok. So that was my first criticism. It just gave more fantasy than anything else, which I'm not complaining with because I have really been on a long run of fantasy lately, and it's just what I've been into lately, and I've been enjoying it. But when I picked up this book, it was certainly not what I was expecting, but it was something I just grew accustomed to, and I continued along my way. The second thing that threw me was how I had forgotten how annoying MCs of Booktok books can be. Obviously, I'm not going to do like a spoiler or not spoiler review of the book, but this is a spoiler warning for this little bit here. So, emotional maturity is always the one thing that is always present for Booktok books. I don't know why. I don't know how they cannot know how to deal with things in a manner that perhaps is, a bit emotional mature, where it keeps a bit of space there to learn, but also not like be totally emotionally deaf in a weird way. But it's almost like Booktok MCs need to go through this insane level of trauma. Like, not only does she lose her mother, which is already traumatic enough, not only has she had a rough childhood where she's just been grown in these expectations and underneath this immense pressure by her mother, without her father, which is also, again, more trauma. But she has this insidious voice in her head. It's almost like she has OCD, or she does have OCD, which is even more trauma. And then she obviously fights with Genevieve. She discovers some things about her mom. So it's almost like trauma upon trauma upon trauma upon trauma. And Booktok authors like to stack trauma up like that. And of course, the icing on the cake is she doesn't know what to do with that. She doesn't know how to handle that trauma. And it's almost like sometimes I look at it and I'm like, these people have like so much trauma. They have so much pain and grief or sadness in them, but they when they act out, it doesn't really make sense in a way that my mind can compute. And my mind can usually compute, a lot of actions. That's like, oh, okay, it's because she's going through grief. But Booktok books have a way of making me think that these people don't know what to write, don't know how to explain things and how to make characters feel all that more lively. So where I crashed out, specifically, So Phantasma has this thing where one of the rules is you cannot fall in love inside the contest. Why? It's because should you fall in love, both of you would be cursed. Now, what the curse means is basically, should you touch the person you're in love with, their touch or that contact would be acidic to you, essentially. So you would burn each other as you touch it. As you touch each other, you would burn, basically. And then also there's the curse also manifests in the way of convulsions and strokes and things like that. But it's on the stipulation that you love another person in the contest, or you fall in love during the contest. This is because there is an instance in the book where another contestant falls in love with a guy and he doesn't fall in love with her. But their touch is acidic because obviously she loves him. And then she also goes through like these strokes and panics and things like that, basically because she loves him, but he doesn't love her. So that's another effect of it. Now, anyways, there's that curse in Phantasma. So she can feel herself falling for this phantom that is now helping her through the games. So she can feel herself falling for it. So she first asks for space. And this is a very broad, simplistic view of what is happening. There's a lot of nuance that I'm skipping. It's not that heavy or that complicated to understand, really. So she is falling for the phantom. She doesn't want to admit it. She wants to obviously solve her side of the bargain that she has with him, which is to, release him from this place. Also win and find Genevieve, all that. So she asks for space because they were sleeping together. The space then lapses because obviously she comes back to him. She realizes she needs him, etc., etc. Then something else happens. then Blackwell calls space because now he's realizing or clocking something. I can't remember exactly what it was, whether it was maybe a reveal, maybe it was like a glimpse into her thoughts or her feelings, or she said something in particular, but he calls for space. Okay, now they're away. They're taking space. So before this level, and I think we're like on level 4 or 5 now. Before this level, a devil pops up. Now, this devil has been played up until this point as being essentially the antagonist for Blackwell. He doesn't want Blackwell being freed from Phantasma, and he's determined to kind of convince Ophelia to join him instead and forfeit the game, end the bargain, and basically let Blackwell remain here for how many ever years, eternity, whatever. And essentially, she decides she's going to get with this devil named Sinclair. And she doesn't use the justification of that they're on a break, which is messed up. If it was the justification, but she doesn't use that. She doesn't use the justification that she wants to run away from her feelings, i.e., the fact that she loves Blackwell. She doesn't even use the justification that, hey, I've been trapped my whole life underneath these circumstances, never really experiencing life until my mother died, until I've gotten into this competition. She doesn't do that. What is the reason she uses for getting with Sinclair right after Blackwell called a break? Curiosity. Now, that's where I draw the line. Because she's going through a lot. She has a lot going on. Yes. And of course, everything is happening, she's in this contest, people are dying, it is traumatic, it is horrific. It's basically a haunted house on steroids ran by devils. You can put 2 and 2 together and call that maybe a Monday when you have to go back to work, it's bad. And she, or Haley, has a plethora of reasons why Ophelia could do this. Why, at the end of the day, then she decided that Ophelia would get with somebody, Blackwell's enemy no less, out of curiosity, just for just. Made me feel like Ophelia was just there. It was just something to happen. Oh, okay, how does it feel to be with the devil? Oh, let us see this. Never mind the fact that somebody sees them and she gets caught. But that doesn't impact the scene at all because she pulls away, she puts distance between herself and Sinclair because it doesn't feel right. But again, this is all happening out of curiosity. And it just felt like it was a character assassination. It just felt like as a reader, I just couldn't connect with her on that level because it just felt like emotionally she was just not there. And the character assassination points were always there. Like, there was a moment where they got together and they had sex basically because she needed a distraction. Remember, these levels in Phantasma are horrific. Like, seriously horrific. So cool, they get together as a distraction, obviously, to placate her mind. Also because she has never had that intimacy, connection, etc., etc. Cool. But it becomes to a point where even Blackwell is like, okay, but you only ever want to be with me, basically, as a distraction. He brings it up. Obviously, it's because he is also feeling the same way about Ophelia. He is falling for her, and he is now starting to realize that, okay, the only time they seem to be together or intimate or whatever the case is because she needs a distraction because she just went through something, a level of Phantasma, a level of hell. Now, this moment happens. She says something, they talk about it to a certain degree, and then later on in the book, it just happens again, as if it wasn't discussed, as if Blackwell didn't raise it up as an issue, or raised it up, obviously showing that it bothered him. But that also is just something that detracted from the story. The fact that it felt like, okay, these MCs are now moving, the story is progressing, we're moving forward, but it's like, what we're doing in between the levels don't really matter because we're just like being pulled back, and these experiences that are or discussions that are happening don't really mean anything. But negatives out of the way, I did enjoy the story, and I specifically enjoyed the ending. I enjoyed watching Ophelia learn her magic, become more comfortable with herself, with her body, with her freedom, that she didn't have to now just pick up the Grim legacy and continue. She became more powerful. I enjoyed watching her fall in love because this was also something that was completely new to her. So she had to grow, she had to learn how it or what it is to fall in love. So I enjoyed all of that. I enjoyed Blackwell's character, his charismatic nature, his ego. It was like a typical bad boy, but like slap some supernaturalness on it, slap some ghost, some bit of hell in order to bring up, that the bad and bad boy, or what, typical book talk male love interest basically, but just a little bit of spice. And I enjoyed the actual progression of the story in the sense of finding Genevieve and finding out what exactly her mother had done. So the twist about their father, Gabriel White, the fact that this love curse is the reason why her mother is in, the reveal that that's why her mother is in financial debt, because she had taken out money to purchase an entirely different property to get away, because the other aspect of the Phantasma's curse when it comes to falling in love is the fact that on one side you have a partner who becomes obsessed, not obsessed, but worships the ground of their partner, while this partner becomes obsessed, dangerously so with partner or with a partner basically. So you have one that will worship and one that will be obsessed beyond reason, dangerously so. And if you break the curse, or you some for whatever reason detach away from one of the partners, detach away from the other, it's not necessary to say that they will suddenly not be affected by the curse. And this is what would happen with Gabriel. The fact is he was still obsessed with Mama Grimm, and so he entered Phantasma again and died, I think. Or she never. It's not actually said. So maybe perhaps he appears in a later book, because I know that Haley Smith has later books, perhaps maybe in the same universe. But he appears in Phantasma again the second time for the competition to grant or to get the wish that he can find Mama Grimm. But of course, Mama Grimm dies. Oh no, Mama Grimm dies. He dies, or he wishes something, and which in turn leads to Mama Grimm dying, which also a reveal I didn't see. And then to top it all off, the reveal of all reveals is who exactly Blackwell is in relation to Phantasma and the King of Hell, the King of Devils. And that for me was something that really, really kept me going when I got annoyed about Ophelia, when I got annoyed about things that Ophelia was doing, her actions, when these character assassination points were happening, the fantasy element and the twists and turns in this investigation for Ophelia and the revealing of her legacy, her past, her ancestry. That was something that really, really kept me rooted in the story. Of course, I didn't like the ending. It was almost like, okay, cool. She finally built herself up to a point where, she's confident, she's living life, she's powerful. And so she fell in love with Blackwell, but to be with Blackwell, she essentially swears to be with him forever. And that's just that. I kind of thought that was a little bit of detractor away. Like, I would have liked to see her maybe in my personal view, I maybe would have liked to see her lose Blackwell actually, and have that love and have that connection and things, and know that, okay, this is life, and now I can go out and experience life in all these other ways. I can travel because she hasn't traveled. She can go make friends. She can be out at night, because also, this whole devil thing meant that at night she couldn't be out. She had to be at home at a specific time. She had to be indoors at a specific time. Stuff like that. It just felt like the ending to be her swearing to be with him for eternity and bonding their souls together kind of tied her down. It was almost like she did enough growth in the 2 weeks that Phantasma was around, and now that was it. And now she would just have to spend eternity doing these things that I said, partying, meeting friends, living life. But she would have to do it with Blackwell, which isn't bad. I'm not saying that's bad. It's sweet. It's really like, oh, but it just felt like it was a bit weird that we were setting her up in such a good way, and then we assassinated her character to kind of be like, okay, so she just ties her soul to the man, and then she beats with the man, even when she's just experiencing life for the first time. But it was an easy read. It wasn't too hectic. Like surprisingly enough, you'd be surprised by this, but I have been more annoyed by other Booktok authors and Booktok characters than Ophelia Grimm and Haley Smith. But I did enjoy it. I don't know if I would recommend it. I'm kind of sitting more of like a 3 out of 5 or a 6 out of 10 kind of vibe. Also, there wasn't a lot of like spiciness, which is also something I kind of associate with Booktok, and there was like a lot of it at the end of the book, but you have to get through 250 pages more or less to get into it, and it was also just like one of those things. Again, character assassination points, but back to the fact that she did the thing with Sinclair, and it was just like, oh, okay, you know. But 3 out of 5, 6 out of 10 was a fun little read. I shouldn't take this book so seriously. I don't know why they irk me so much, but Booktok books, they do that to me. But I'm really, really, really excited to get back into this genre. Like I enjoy going on these emotional conundrums, spectrums, throwing me into like an emotional washing machine and just getting pounded by every single emotion I possibly can, and then for some reason throwing the detergent of annoyance in there. Like it's a very weird metaphor, but I enjoyed the series. I enjoy the genre, and I want to get back into it. But if you read Haley Smith, let me know down in the comments what you feel about it, what you think about Booktok MCs in general. Like, do they drive you up the walls like they do me? And let me know your favorite Booktok book. Something that you have picked up because you saw your favorite content creator pick it up or advertise it on Booktok. But until the next episode,